and I would like to ask, because so far only artists were talking, right? Most. We want to hear from viewers. What do they think? What question do you guys have about that show? Because, for example, I want to start. Couple of, Harlee. I remember after the first time I've seen the show, back where it was originally recorded, I came to you and we were a little bit laughing about how many times you died during the show. Do you remember the conversation? Actually, can you tell me a little bit more? How many actually times you died during this show?
I think maybe physically represented twice, where it came up as more of an obvious thing. I think that throughout the show, that you do kind of take the roller coaster ride of just like being caught off guard, and then also just like moments of celebration, and then moments of loss. And so I think that kind of in keeping with this like idea of taking things as they come, and maybe not a physical death, but a death of idea, a death of desire. I think that there's a lot of different ways that could be interpreted, but it did so happen to be me that represented that a few times. And I think that the meaning of that is just really open to interpretation. Yeah.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions?
Yes. So we do have another question that I would love for any of the dancers to answer. The question is, what emotions do you as a dancer bring to the theme of a dance? And then also, along with that, how do those emotions influence how you experience that dance? So again, what emotions do you as a dancer bring to the dance, and then how do those emotions influence how you experience the dance? So I'm not sure who's going to take that. Maybe we can do the universal symbol of raise your hand and everyone can be cognizant so we don't all start talking at once.
Okay, looks like, okay.
I'll take it since I was kind of like more on the spot, and my mom, Ursula, actually sent this question. And I feel like for emotions as a dancer that I bring to the theme of the dance, well, this piece had a lot going on in it, and I feel like I definitely, for a long time, not knowing the full meaning and like the weight of the piece, kind of struggled with that sometimes. And I remember in particular one time, and this was something that started the piece, where Asya took me into a studio and she was like, I want you to do this thing. And she was like, I want you to laugh and then transition into crying. And I was like, oh wow, oh my goodness, okay. And I was just so confused with that, because I was like, I have no idea what this means in context with like all the other things I knew about the piece, which were mostly like happy and playful. And so I really just like had no idea what necessarily to do with that. But I feel like I was able to find, like Courtney was saying, in this piece, I felt like a lot of the happiness was very real, because I'm dancing with my friends. I'm dancing with people that make me very happy to see. So my like happiness and playfulness was definitely like very real. And then there was also the other side of this piece that was very heavy, and that we kind of got hit with later on. And so, I mean, just kind of like, if you've ever, studied this tragedy and what happened, you can't really help but relate, feel the sadness of that. Like, we didn't necessarily experience that, but I think that kind of like sadness that you feel of, something, seeing something like this, like, how could this happen? That's there. And finding out that was part of this piece, it was not really hard for me to think of like the sadness and like tapping into that. So, it was thinking of that, and then also being able to just get past that and see, okay, I'm here with my friends, I'm here with, you know, people that I enjoy dancing with. It was a combination of kind of like referencing that, and then also like the joy of dance and art. So I don't know if that exactly answered the question, but that's kind of like the things I felt like I brought to this.
It was a beautiful explanation.
Yes, and you did such a good job. I just want to underscore that as well, that that was a really difficult task I think that I gave you. And I knew it was hard because I always try things on myself first, and it was very hard for me. And it had to be so specific, and I think you did a marvelous job, so I commend you on that for sure. And I very much, again, I want to just come back to another thing you just said, which is I really didn't want you guys to know, the dancers, anything about what was going on, because not only in a way I wanted you to have your own meaningful journey, but because exactly of what you keep saying, dance is fun, dance is an outlet, dance is us dancing together. And I almost felt like protective mother hen, because I'm experiencing all of these horrible emotions of sadness. I don't know what to do with them. The Holocaust happened and we can never undo it. It's not something we can ever fix. And so just living with that day in, day out, thinking all those people, and it continues to happen universally with other people as well. And I just didn't want you to have those emotions quite yet until the very end, because I just felt, okay, well, I go through this and I feel pretty bad, but I don't want my dancers to feel bad. So, but again, you did a great job with that, and as well as did all the other dancers with all of their movement. So at this time, I just wanted to, and Courtney will say something next. I just wanted to, as we're kind of turning towards a close and we have just a few more minutes for questions, etc. I did also want to, after Courtney speaks, I just wanted to walk you through, and I apologize if you're not hearing me that well. I did want to walk you through a little bit of a slide versus slide situation where we can go through the scenes and kind of see the imagery that took place. And I also want to remind everybody who's watching this that not necessarily it wasn't a literal story. Again, we were just paying homage to the memory of these people and bringing their artwork to life. So basically what happened was there was a select few images, and from that we drew inspiration for the movement. We looked at the color, we looked at the composition, I looked at the content, what was going on, and how that could translate if those pictures came to life. So as I get that ready, go ahead, Courtney. I apologize, didn't mean to interrupt. And then we'll switch over to the screen share.
No, just going off of Kat and Asya for that last question. For the emotion part, just because, like Asya said, she didn't tell us what it was about really. I mean, as a dancer, we all, whether we know a story or not of what the show is going to be about, a dancer usually puts in their own, like, has their own story in mind of how they're portraying a certain thing. So with knowing a little bit of the background, not of like the Holocaust or anything, but knowing how it was playful and then, you know, it became dark and whatever, a few months prior, like my dad passed. So with that, I was able to, like, for the playfulness, like Kat said, that was so real when we were doing those sections, because it's like in my head, I thought about like, oh, when I was a kid and like the memories and with him. So for that, I was able to portray like the playfulness. And then when it became dark and sad, it like brought me back to a few months prior. And then it's when Asya actually like told us what it was about, I was like, oh wow, like although my story was completely different of what she's trying to portray, I feel my emotions were still linked. And yeah, so I feel like that kind of helps, like when you have your own sense of not knowing, that it kind of still goes.
Yeah, and the show premiered in October, and I kind of very carefully had asked Courtney if it was okay. So she did say it was okay, and we did dedicate the show to her father as well. I think if you were there, you saw in the program notes that he was among 2 people that we dedicated the show to. So thank you. I'm glad you brought him up because he's with us today. So just quickly want to go over right now what I'm going to do. I just kind of want to give everybody who's watching a little bit of guidance. So if you are watching in speaker view, you should be okay. If you're watching in gallery view, or for the case that someone might be coming in and unmute themselves, right now I'm going to do a screen share with you where I'm going to show you the images that were used once again, as well as some scenes from the dancing where you can kind of see how they relate. So if you would like, if this part is a little too confusing for you, there is no need to do this. If you would like, you can go ahead in your little box. You can find the, actually in my box, if you hover around with your cursor to the 3 dots, you can see an option that's something called pin the video. And when you pin this video, it will ensure that you only see my box, which is about to do a screen sharing process. If you're okay with looking at it in small images, then that's fine. Of course, you will get this as well as all the images already you maybe have seen in an email. So there's no need to do this if you do not want. So right now I'm about to share this screen. And what you're going to see, first I want to show you the slides that were used. So at this point you should be seeing the screen. So I just want to take through the slides that were used for inspiration. And this, as you're looking at these, so these are courtesy of the Terezin Museum in the Czech Republic, or Czechia as they're calling now. And as I'm going through them, just kind of note the content of what's going on. The first one, actually, I apologize, I'll bring this back. This first one, very vibrant. You see the colors, you see the composition. What would life be like if that came to life? That's what we were really thinking. Here, this is something called A Girl's Dorm by Helga Weissova, age 14. So this is kind of her surroundings that she saw and depicted in her dorm. Here is, let's go one back. Yes, here is another little moment captured by Irina Karpusova, age 13, airing mattresses in the garden. This is something called Underwater Fantasy by Ruth Gutmanova, age 14. So you can see these are really, and from what I read, they really were taking their lessons seriously. Sometimes it was thematic, sometimes it was about composition. And you see kind of a little bit of gray here. So we definitely had moments that were more, you know, everything kind of is all over the page. We had moments that were kind of sporadic and chaotic, and the whole group was dancing. Here you can see Malvina Lvovna was killed at age 12. She drew this family being deported under armed guards while farmers armed with pitchforks threatened them. So again, but you see there's kind of like a rainbow situation. There's a lot of juxtaposition of happy and sad in general. And here you see really kind of a deathly moment that's happening. And then this is really just an exercise in color theory by Anna Listigova, age 13. So these were just some inspirations. And then here, of course, you see a train. So just to take you back a little bit. So just note this composition here. I apologize, 1 second here. I'm going to go ahead, actually, forgive me 1 second. I just wanted to, again, mute everybody. If you are not on mute, go ahead and mute yourself, please. And that way we see a little bit less of the wrestling. Okay, so right here, this is just one instance. So when I look at this and you see these two brightly colored skirts and it's a little bit gray and orange, well, if you look over in this scene, one of the first scenes you see again, these two lovely ladies in their orange skirts depicted just as friends would do. And that actually, the slide image there, again, that's Memories of Sunbathing by Ruth Chekova, age 13. So you can kind of see, some of it is a more literal inspiration where you kind of see a one-to-one experience. here, for instance, this second piece that opened up, so the solo that Courtney had, this was really drawn more on the sad nature kind of. You see it's a little bit blue, and she's maybe in a traditional costume, but there is a little bit of that. And you know, the other slide being a girls' dorm, lessons in the dorms, what was that like? So this is really a moment you saw in the solo, that this is a tragic moment. This is a tragic figure. The next piece, so the next thing that we have going on, again, these are just some examples. If this is not what you were seeing, that's totally fine. Here you kind of see the colors green, blue, pink, vibrant, connected, a lot of people, it's a family perhaps. So we're moving on here a little bit, and you can actually see, well, I hope you can see if the Wi-Fi decides to go. Let's see where we would be probably here. So you see a moment here where hopefully it'll queue up a little bit, but you see in this tiny little box that it's really almost like a family affair, and the colors of the costumes were depicting some of those colors. And again, I apologize for some of the technical difficulties that are happening, but the reason I wanted to share that, you know, again, there's a moment of clear death going on. So let me go ahead and stop sharing this for now. Again, I apologize for some of the technical difficulties, but if you maybe now would rewatch in the future, you would have a little bit more of an understanding of how did we pair each scene with the artwork. And definitely, if you didn't see it, like I said, I can't stress that enough, that's totally fine. But hopefully that was, again, enough to clear up some of the, for those who were interested, where did the inspiration come from? This, I just wanted to finish off with this last drawing here, which I thought was really great. This image, which kind of started the whole thing, the first image that we saw, this is actually the only survivor of the camp. And to me, that was really a symbol of hope. So I definitely wanted to include her as well. And you can see this slide was responsible for a lot of the coloring and the backdrop that you maybe saw in the video. So again, these definitely have either been sent out to everybody, or if you'd like to receive them, if you didn't receive the attachment, please do let me know. I'd love to send that. But that's as far as the inspiration of slide versus dance scene goes. So I hope that that was something, a nice look into kind of how that came about. And of course, here as we're drawing to the close, if you do have any other questions or something that you would like to share, please, you can always email us or you can visit our website and then contact us through that at artist-house.org. And before we switch gears and thank, and I see my mom is raising her hand, she's gonna ask a question, but just because we're winding to a close and I didn't want to be remiss in saying this, I just wanted to thank the dancers from the bottom of my heart for being so unique. It's really a pleasure working with such different types of people that move differently, that are not all the same. And also for your hard work. Thank you for your passion and your dedication to this. I also wanted to thank my family, my full family, my family here on Zoom today, and our extended family, and the Multicultural Arts Exchange, of course, and Mikhail Zorich. So we look forward to maybe doing stuff with you in the future. Thank you for making this happen. And in case you're interested, I also wanted to also thank Sandy Mitchell, who's a wonderful videographer. She does video editing. So if you ever need somebody, get in touch with me, because I always think how important it is to record a piece, and I couldn't foresee how important it would be to this particular showing today, where this is really all we have to go on. So thank you, big thank you to her as well. And thank you to Jason Milstein, who always helps me cut the music correctly and figure out where do we need more silences. And now I see my mom is asking a question, so go ahead.
it's not